In this lesson, you'll learn how to play my most recent composition, which is a beautiful melody in the key of G. So let's start off with a demo so you can hear how it sounds, and then we'll walk through how to play the tabs step by step. If you're enjoying this melody, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, then welcome. I'm Lara. I'm a musician, a composer, and a ukulele teacher, and I hope you have fun exploring my channel, my song tutorials, and my arrangements. This melody was written for low G tuning. I've named it Little Miracles, and if you'd like to download the tabs, you can do so from my Patreon page, along with my book of tabs and my songbook, covering all of the songs and arrangements that I've shared in my tutorials. You'll find the link down below in the video description. Now let's get started with our tutorial and walk through the tabs step by step. Starting off in the first measure, I have my ring, middle, and index fingers on the 7th fret of strings 2, 3, and 4. We're going to play an arpeggio or a broken chord through the 2nd string. Then we'll take our ring finger and move it down to the 5th fret, then place our index finger down on the 3rd fret, back to the 5th fret with our ring finger, moving our ring finger up to 7, and then back to 5. We're starting off the 2nd measure with an arpeggio on our C chord through the 2nd string. So strings 4, 3, and 2 will all be played open. Then we'll play some melody notes on our 2nd string, starting with our index finger on the 2nd fret, middle finger on the 3rd fret, ring finger on the 5th fret, and then I'm moving my ring finger up to the 7th fret. The last note that we play in measure 2 will be the 7th fret of the 1st string that we'll play with our pinky. We're going to leave our ring finger in place on the 7th fret of the 2nd string because we're going to use this placement as we move into our G major 7 chord at the beginning of measure 3. To play this chord, we'll place our index finger down on the 5th fret of the 1st string and our middle finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string. Next, we'll move our middle finger to the 3rd fret of the 1st string, index finger on the 2nd fret, back to the 3rd fret, Then I'm using my pinky to go to the 5th fret, back to the 3rd fret, and then 2nd fret. In measure 4, we're going to an A minor 7 chord, and our melody note is the open 1st string. So this arpeggio is all open strings. Then we'll play the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, then the 2nd fret, and then strings 2 and 3 together, both open, then back to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and then in measure 5, we're going to a C chord with our melody note on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. I'm using my ring finger here so that my index and middle fingers are free for what's coming up. So at the beginning of measure 5, we'll play an arpeggio through the 2nd string, then we'll pick strings 4, 3, and 2. Then I'm placing my index and middle fingers on the 2nd fret of strings 4 and 3 to pick each of these strings. In measure 6, we'll lift up our index finger, keeping our middle and ring fingers in place. We'll play an arpeggio through the 2nd string, then we'll pick the 3rd string, and then we'll pick strings 2 and 3 together. In measure 7, we're going to an E minor 7 chord. I have my index finger on the 5th fret of the 1st string and my middle finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. We're going to pick strings 3, 2, 1, and 3. And then we'll do that again. In measure 8, we're going to place down our ring finger on the 7th fret of the 2nd string. We'll play strings 2, 3, 2, 1, and then back to string 2. Measure 9 is the same as measure 7. In measure 10, we'll place down our ring finger and our pinky on the 7th fret of strings 2 and 1. So now we have the 7th fret covered on 3 of our strings. We'll pick strings 2, 3, 2, 1, and then we'll lift up these 3 fingers, leaving us with just our index finger on the 5th fret of the 1st string. To finish up measure 10, we'll play the 3rd fret of the 1st string, and then the 2nd fret. In measure 11, we're going to all open strings. We'll pick strings 1, 3, 2, 1 twice. In measure 12, we're going to a G chord. We'll play the same pattern as we played in measure 11. In measure 13, we'll place down our pinky on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, lifting up our other fingers. We'll play strings 1, 3, 2, 1. Then we'll place our middle finger down on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Then we'll play the open 3rd string. Then the 3rd fret of the 1st string. And then the 2nd fret of the 1st string. In measure 14, we're going to start off with our open 1st string, and then we'll place our index and middle fingers down on the 2nd fret of strings 3 and 2. We'll play string 3, 2, open 1st string, and then we'll use our pinky to play the 5th fret of the 1st string. Measures 15 through 18 are identical to measures 1 through 4. When we get to measure 19, we're going to play an arpeggio through the second string on our C chord with our melody note on the 3rd fret of the second string. Then we'll pick strings 4, 3, and 2, back to 4, and then up to our open 1st string. In measure 20, we'll place down our index and middle fingers on the 2nd fret of strings 4 and 3. We'll play an arpeggio through the 2nd string, then we'll pick strings 4, 3, and 2, back to 4, and we'll finish measure 20 on the 5th fret of our 1st string. In measure 21, we're playing an arpeggio on a C chord with our pinky on the 7th fret of the 1st string. Then we'll play frets 5, 3, and 2. Then we're going back to the 3rd fret to play an arpeggio through all 4 strings. Then we're going back to fret 5, 3, and 2. And then in measure 22, we're going to a D chord. We'll play an arpeggio through all 4 strings here. And then we're going back to our 1st string, 5th fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open 1st string. We're finishing on a G chord with our index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and pinky on the 5th fret of the 1st string. If you're feeling generous and you'd like to support my channel, then see the video description for an easy way to buy me a coffee. Your support is very much appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed learning this beautiful melody that I call Little Miracles. Have fun practicing, and thanks for watching.